Hey gang, welcome back to another EDH gameplay video. This week, I'm playing Zedruu. You know him, you love him, you kinda hate him sometimes. Adam is playing Derevi. Zach, who's a newcomer, is playing Teneb. And Alexi, also new to the videos, is playing Tasigur. So rather than bore you guys with each of the cards in each person's opening hand, I'm just going to show you one by one. This is my hand. This is Adam's hand. This is Zach's hand. And this is Alexi's hand. Zach wins the die roll, so let's start. Zach's first turn sees Tasigur, who shelters all, hit the field. I didn't get the memo that the cool kids are playing tap lands, so I just play a plains. Alexi plays Opulent Palace tap for his turn and passes to Adam. Adam's turn sees a Marsh Flats hit the field, where he cracks it and plays a Birds of Paradise. Adam does this almost every single game if you haven't noticed. Suspicious. For his land, Zach drops a command tower and then lives pretty much every graveyard player's dream and casts a turn 2 Hermit Druid. With Zach having more lands than I do, I cast Tithe to find 2 Plains cards and put them to my hand. Playing the Tundra that I found with Tithe, I cast Toper Orb. Adam loves this card. Alexi plays Temple of Malady for his turn, scrying 1, then casts Serum Vision, drawing the card and scrying 2. So much scrying. Adam plays a Tundra, and passes. On his upkeep, Zach pays 1 green to activate Hermit Druid. You'd think that he'd go pretty deep, since he only runs 3 basics, but Zach only hits 5 cards. Zach plays a Bloodstained Mire, cracks it, and finds a Bayou. Taking even more damage from Tasigur, he casts 3 Visits. Unable to compete with Zach's awesome explosive 5-card deep Hermit Druid, I play an Island, cast Chromatic Lantern, and pass to Alexi. Uncontent with only scrying twice in a turn, Alexi casts Preordained to scry 2 and draw a card. Playing a Flooded Strand for his turn, Alexi passes to Adam. Adam's got straight nothing and plays an Island and passes. On his upkeep, Zach uses Hermit Druid to go a little bit deeper into his library, this time hitting more than 5 cards and netting a swamp. During his main phase, Zach casts Lotus Cobra, then plays Wooded Foothill, gaining 1 green mana, and taps the land and uses the green mana to cast Sylvan Library. He then passes turn. On my turn, I drop a Prairie Stream, cast Scroll Rack, cast Expedition, then activate Scroll Rack. Hoping to hit a bit more gas for my deck, I end up switching those cards that I had for 4 lands. Not the best. Alexi does his best impression of Adam, plays a Reliquary Tower, and passes. At the end of Alexi's turn, Adam flashes in Derevi, who actually doesn't do anything, which is awesome! Adam plays Marsh Flats, which actually makes me think that he played a Verdant Catacomb initially, so sorry about that guys. Tapping 4 mana, he casts Helm of Possession. Moving to combat, he swings Derevi at Zach for 2 damage, untapping Birds of Paradise. He cracks his Marsh Flats to go find Temple Garden, taking 3 damage. Using his birds and his untapped Shockland, he sacrifices Derevi to take Hermit Druid from Zach. On Zach's draw step, he takes 4 damage to keep an extra card from Sylvan Library. Zach plays a Polluted Delta, gains a mana with Lotus Cobra, cracks it, and finds his Scrubland. Using the 2 mana that he gained from using his fetch land and a land coming into play, Zach taps 4 and casts Teneb. Moving to combat, Zach gets his Just Desserts by swinging Lotus Cobra at Adam for 2. I draw one of the cards I put on top for my turn. I place Steam Vents tapped, and then use Scroll Rack to put 3 of my lands back on top of the library. I pass to Alexi, who at the end of my turn cracks his Flooded Strand. Alexi, who's in it for the long game, plays a Simic Guildgate and passes to Adam. Adam plays a Forest for his turn and moves to combat, swinging Hermit Druid at Zach. Zach blocks with Teneb, and Hermit Druid goes to the graveyard. Adam's second main phase sees Seedboard Muse hit the field. Zach doesn't take any extra damage from Sylvan Library this turn and draws a card. He casts Cross and Grip on Helm of Possession. Going to his combat step, Zach swings Teneb at Alexi, paying 3 mana to bring back Hermit Druid. During his second main phase, Zach plays a plain but changes his mind to a swamp, and I crack Expedition Map to go find a land. That land just so happens to be Maze of Ith. For my turn, I play Maze of Ith as my land, use Scroll Rack again, get some new cards, everything's good. One of those new cards is Propaganda, which I cast. I then pass to Alexi like the gentleman that I am. Alexi plays a Forest for his turn, then pumps the brakes, casting Crush of Tentacles to put all non-land permanents back in everyone's hand. The path clear for Derevi, Adam uses her activated ability. Adam uses Derevi's trigger to tap my Mazavith. Not cool, Alexi. Adam plays a polluted Delta for his turn, then rubs his mana for some reason and casts Angel of Finality. Moving to his combat step, Adam swings Derevi at me for 2. Adam untaps his Savannah, casts Birds of Paradise, and cracks Polluted Delta. For his turn, in short order, Zach recasts Hermit Druid, Lotus Cobra, and Sylvan Library before passing to me. Similar to Zach, I spend my turn rebuilding my things, casting Scroll Rack, and then trying to cast Topher Orb, but Adam decides to not let me have fun. I try and bluff a counter, but it doesn't really work, and he Arcane Denials my Topher Orb. With nothing else to do, I pass to Alexi, drawing 2 on his upkeep, and Adam draws 1. For his turn, Alexi plays a Swamp, delves away a few cards, and casts Tasigur before passing to Adam. During his first main phase, Adam casts Aura Shards and moves to combat. He swings Derevi at Zach and Angel at Alexi. He uses Derevi's triggers to untap 2 lands, and in his second main phase, casts Seaboard Muse again. Not wanting Adam to untap on every turn, Alexi casts Arcane Denial, countering it. On his upkeep, Zach triggers Hermit Druid, trying to find his last basic. He goes really deep. On his main phase, Zach casts Sun Titan, returning Skullwinder. He picks me and lets us both return a card from our graveyard to our hands. I grab Topher Orb. For my turn, I play a Plains, cast Wild Research, and go to my discard phase, pitching Jace Beleren before passing to Alexi. Alexi, doing all you control players proud, plays a Tainted Wood and passes to Adam. Adam plays Homeward Path for his land and goes to combat. He swings Angel again at Alexi and Derevi at Zach once more. With nothing of his own to untap, he taps down my Mazavith and Alexi's Tasigur. During his second main phase, Adam casts Natural Order, sacrificing Derevi to go find something. Alexi shuts Adam down though, casting Mystic Snake to counter the spell. On his draw step, Zach uses the Sylvan Library to see half of his library, which is technically 6 cards, so 3 is half. Zach plays a land gaining a mana from Lotus Cobra, and taps 6 lands to cast Elesh Norn. Adam isn't too thrilled about this, and casts Delay to stall Elesh Norn for another 3 turns. Zach responds in kind, casting Reclamation Sage to blow up Aura Shards. Zach moves to combat, swinging Sun Titan at Adam for 6. Using Sun Titan's trigger, he brings back Gavany Township. At the end of Zach's turn, I use Wild Research to go find an enchantment. Guess which one? I find Humility, but unfortunately it cost me Topher Orb. I play Petrified Field for my land, and then cast Humility. In response, Alexi activates Tasigur, choosing Adam as the opponent. Adam gives him Crush of Tentacles back. On his turn, Alexi casts Crush of Tentacles again. I respond this time using Wild Research to go find my own Arcane Denial, making this Arcane Denial number 3. Luckily, Wild Research makes me pitch Dictate of Krufix. My efforts are in vain though, as Alexi syncopates for 1 my Arcane Denial. Adam starts his turn off by recasting Birds of Paradise, Zach sees the writing on the wall knowing that he's about to lose his graveyard, and Adam casts Angel of Finality. His turn over, he passes to Zach. Zach plays Avenger of Zendikar, helping to delay the inevitable, slowing down his eventual loss. He also recasts Lotus Cobra, and then passes to me. My turn starts off with a Boseiju, coming into play tapped. I then cast a bunch of spells you've already seen, including Chromatic Lantern, Wild Research, and Scroll Rack. On his turn, Alexi casts Thing in Ice, which is an interesting card in EDH. I'm not too sure how I feel, but it's kinda like a board wipe, and then follows that up with a Perplexing Chimera before passing to Adam. During his main phase, Adam casts Reclamation Sage, which Alexi lets go. Adam targets Perplexing Chimera and removes the issue from the board. Heading to combat, Adam swings Derevi at me, and Angel of Finality at Alexi. Adam untaps Derevi and Gaia's Cradle. He plays a creature face down, which kinda confuses me because this isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! On Zach's turn, he plays a land, giving all of his 0/1 plants a +1/+1 counter. He moves to combat, swinging all of his creatures at Alexi. Alexi blocks the Lotus Cobra with Thing in Ice, and casts Murderous Cut on Avenger of Zendikar. Zach responds by using Gavany Township to pump his tokens. Alexi takes a massive hit of 20 damage. During his second main phase, we see Skullwinder hit the field again, and Zach chooses me once more. I return Arcane Denial, because counters are good against Adam, and yeah. At the end of Zach's turn, I use Scroll Rack to put 5 of my cards on top of my library to liven up my hand a little bit. On my turn, during my first main phase, I cast Solitary Confinement, follow that with Land Tax, and then cast Zedruu to pass to Alexi. Alexei draws for turn, which, thankfully due to the setup of this camera, allows us to see that it's a Cyclonic Rift. Then, like any good control player, he spends about 5 minutes wasting all of our time by flicking his hand, going through his graveyard, playing with his lands, and then passing. Thanks, Alexei. Responding to Alexei's end of turn, Adam pays 1 blue, revealing Void Mage Prodigy as his morph card. Adam's main phase sees Breeding Pool come into play untapped, causing Adam to take 2 damage. Moving to combat, there's a great deal of debate over whether or not Adam should kill Alexei. Adam decides that an alive Alexei can help him a lot more than a dead Alexei can against Zach, so he passes. On Zach's upkeep, the final counter comes off Elish Norn, and he gets to cast her for free. Adam doesn't want that to happen, so he sacrifices Derevi to Void Mage Prodigy, countering the spell. Moving straight to combat, Zach swings all of his creatures at Adam. With a quick tally, Adam realizes he's staring down lethal. He brings in Derevi, tapping down Skullwinder, and casts Swords to Plowshares on Zach's Lotus Cobra, giving Zach 3 life. Zach responds by once again using Gavany Township to give all of his creatures +1/+1 counters. He blocks 3 of the tokens and takes a truckload of damage. During his second main phase, Zach casts Safi, Eric's daughter, a great card for any kind of reanimation deck that's running white and green. At the end of Zach's turn, I give him one of my planes. On my upkeep, one of my cards has to go to keep Solitary Confinement around, and Misfill Plains takes the cake. Then, being the only non-green deck at the table, I use land tax since all of my opponents have more to go find 3 basic lands and put them to my hand. I then gain 1 life and draw a card to Zedruu's trigger. During my main phase, I use Scroll Rack to put those 3 lands back on top, getting 3 new cards. One of those is Soul Ring, which I cast. Using my Soul Ring and Chromatic Lantern, I cast Temple Bell, one of my win condition combo cards. Moving to combat, which is something I rarely say in Zedruu, I swing Zedruu herself at Alexei. He of course blocks with Thing and Ice. Alexei plays Golgari Guildgate for his land for turn. He has no follow-up and passes to Adam. At the end of Alexei's turn, Adam responds by bringing in Derevi, tapping down my Temple Bell. And since I'm what you call a nice guy, I make everyone draw a card. Adam casts a Soul Ring of his own and moves to combat, swinging Derevi and Angel of Finality at Alexei. Alexei responds by overloading Cyclonic Rift that we saw him draw a while back. Wanting to save my Arcane Denial for something more important, I let it happen, and so does Adam. Adam spends his second main phase casting Soul Ring, Birds of Paradise, Derevi, and Angel of Finality, targeting Alexei's graveyard. With only a few cards remaining to draw, a handful of stuff he's not going to be able to cast or swing with, Zach scoops. For my turn, I cast Soul Ring, follow that with Humility, cast Solitary Confinement, and then round it off with a nice Chromatic Lantern. Moving to the end of my turn, I pitch a few cards and pass to Alexei. For his turn, Alexei slams a forest down, then taps out to cast Villainous Wealth for 7. He hits Biden of Thassa, Grand Abolisher, River Selkie, Mana Vault, and Cyclonic Rift again. He tries to rift my Solitary Confinement, but I finally use that Arcane Denial I've been sitting on, which is kinda nice to use it on Adam's spell, but Adam still doesn't get to draw cards. He swings his 1/1 Thing and Ice at Adam, doing 1 damage and drawing a card. He passes turn. Adam casts Gilded Drake for his turn, which is still a 1/1 and doesn't do anything. He then casts Time Twister. Adam makes the mistake of letting me cut his cards. With his new hand, Adam casts Luminarch Ascension and passes. On my upkeep, I pitch Celestial Colonnade to Solitary Confinement, and then play Glacial Fortress during my first main phase. I try to cast Assemble the Legion, but Adam uses Delay again. Rude. I cast Dak Faden. Using his +1 ability, I draw 2 cards and pitch 2 cards. The 2 cards I pitch are Cascade Bluffs and Eldrazi Conscription. Figuring that Humility isn't going to last for much longer, I pay 6 mana and cast Zedruu, who comes in as a 1/1, but I'm hoping to use her later on. For his turn, Alexei casts Deathrite Shaman, then goes to combat, swinging 3 damage at Dak Faden. For Adam's turn, he draws a card and goes to combat, swinging Derevi and the Gilded Drake at Dak. During his second main phase, he casts Cultivate, getting a basic to the field and a basic to his hand. On my upkeep, I choose to not pay Solitary Confinement's upkeep cost. Well, it's not really an upkeep cost, I just don't want to discard a card. I let it go to the bin. For my land, I drop Sacred Foundry, taking 2 damage so it comes into play on tap. I try and cast Nahiri the Harbinger, but Alexei counters her with Counterspell. I cast Copy Enchantment, copying Sylvan Library. I then proceed to tap out to cast Dovescape, the last card in my hand. I'm sure this seems like a bit of a non-bow with Assemble the Legion coming into play soon, but frankly, it's me against Alexei and Adam. I don't think I'm going to win either way at this point. Alexi responds with a fact or fiction, choosing Adam to make the piles. Alexi chooses the pile with memory lapse in it and uses that to put Dovescape on top of my library. Alexi starts his turn off right by casting Urban Evolution, drawing 3 cards and playing an extra land. Like a typical control player, Alexi's drawn cards and played lands, so he passes. At the end of his turn, Adam makes 4 angels, which are really just 1/1 tokens. Tapping his Gaia's Cradle, Adam casts Nim Deathmantle and Kadama's Reach during his first main phase. Adam swings all of his creatures at me, and I take 9. On my turn, during my draw step, I use my copy of Sylvan Library. I keep all the cards and take 8. I play Desolate Lighthouse for my land for turn. Tapping it and 3 other lands, I draw and then discard a card. Unable to find a counter, I move for my second plan, which is to cast Omniscience. Alexi casts Dissipate and exiles Omniscience. During his first main phase, Alexi plays an island, then casts Thought Scour on himself, milling 2 and drawing a card. Alexi moves to combat and swings 4 creatures at me, dealing 4 damage and drawing 4 cards. During his second main phase, he casts Languish, trying to wipe the board. Adam stops it by casting Arcane Denial, which is probably the 6th or 7th time that this card has seen play this game. With nothing else, Alexi passes turn. Adam uses his chance to make 5 more angels. During his main phase, Adam taps Gaia's Cradle to get some mana. He equips Nim Deathmantle onto the Angel of Finality, who's still just a 1/1, making it a 3/3. Moving to combat, Adam swings 9 tokens, Derevi, and the Gilded Drake at me, and sends the remainder of his creatures at Alexi. In response, Alexi putrefies the Angel of Finality. Adam pays the 4 mana and brings it back, but it's no longer attacking. With no way to respond, I die and Alexi takes 2. Little does Adam know that the only thing keeping him alive was my humility. Alexi untaps with Deathrite Shaman on the field, and a Grand Abolisher preventing Adam from doing anything. He activates Deathrite Shaman, exiling an instant or a sorcery, and deals the 2 remaining damage to Adam. Good lord, that was over 2 hours of gameplay that I just sat through again. It was easily the longest game I've recorded, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that there were 3 blue decks. I think all 3 decks played pretty well. Alexi played very conservative with Tasigur and flew under the radar for a long time. Adam does what Derevi does, which is untap and just cheat things in for value. Zach had some really aggressive plays with Hermit Druid. We knew that the Angel of Finality was going to be a problem, but we didn't see how much. Unfortunately, Zach without a graveyard wasn't really much of a deck. Zedruu performed pretty well. I found that she did really well at certain points, but in the end, going against 2 other opponents made it very difficult for me to establish any kind of board state. I think the real karma of this game was that Adam killed himself by killing me, allowing Alexi to use Deathrite Shaman to kill him. Well gang, that was an incredibly long game. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed all the blue decks. These were pretty competitive, pretty cutthroat, and it was a lot of fun. I've got more gameplays saved up, but they're much shorter and will be much easier to make. So look forward to that, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.